couple of days ago, on a warm Friday in June, something extraordinary happened. Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan stood in Istanbul at the Dolmabahce Palace, shaking hands with President Erdogan of Turkey. For two nations with a sealed border, no formal diplomatic ties, and a century of mutual distrust, this was not just a photo opportunity, it was a moment of delicate symbolism and calculated risk. Yerevan called it historic. It may yet prove to be either brave or foolhardy or both. To understand the gravity of the moment, you need to revisit the shadows that linger behind it. Armenia and Turkey have been divided since the 1990s, when Turkey closed its border in solidarity with Azerbaijan during the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But their estrangement runs much deeper. At the heart is the question of the 1915 mass killings of Armenians under Ottoman rule, which Armenia and the majority of historians define as genocide. Turkey not only rejects that term, but has treated it as a red line in diplomacy. And this has frozen formal ties. It seems extraordinary to me, given the fact that this was an event that took place before the formal concept of modern Turkey was defined. It stoked nationalist sentiment on both sides. It's entrenched regional isolation. Earlier efforts to thaw relations, including a 2009 accord, collapsed under pressure, especially from Baku, which is why Pashinyan's decision earlier this year to suspend Armenia's campaign for global genocide recognition was astonishing. Some people called it pragmatic, others betrayal, and now Pashinyan has returned to Turkey, but this time not for a ceremonial occasion as in 2023, but for a working visit at Erdogan's invitation. And the agenda is heavy: normalization of ties, possible border reopening, peace with Azerbaijan, and regional stability in the middle of the Israeli-Iran escalation. And Turkey, for its part, appears to be playing statesman. Erdogan has reaffirmed support for an Armenian-Azerbaijani peace treaty and offered vague backing for Armenia's regional integration. And from Istanbul's perspective, normalization will dilute Russian influence, improve ties with the West, bring economic benefits to Turkey's impoverished eastern provinces. Realpolitik, not repentance, is the driving force. But there is an elephant in the room, or rather a falcon on Erdogan's shoulder: Azerbaijan. Just a day before Pashinyan's visit, President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan held talks in the same city, extolling the Turkish-Azerbaijani alliance as a global force, and Baku has accepted this draft of a peace deal, but now insists on constitutional changes in Armenia before signing. Turkey has always marched in lockstep with Azerbaijan on this issue, but without Baku's blessing, real reconciliation between Ankara and Yerevan is unlikely. In short, Pashinyan is trying to pacify one adversary while relying on the goodwill of its closest ally. It's a diplomatic trapeze act. Predictably, not everyone in Armenia is applauding. Opposition figures have condemned Pashinyan for capitulating on genocide recognition and for warming relations with a country that they believe has never shown contrition. Several dozen protesters were arrested in Yerevan as the talks unfolded. The Armenian Prime Minister is gambling that long-term peace is worth short-term outrage, but history is rarely generous to those who appear to erase memory for the sake of expediency. Yet the risks go beyond protest. If a peace deal with Azerbaijan collapses, if Turkey reverts to nationalist posturing, or if regional wars spiral, Pashinyan will be left isolated, having conceded moral ground with nothing concrete in return. And yet, the prize is tantalizing, isn't it? Reopening borders, access to trade routes, a diminished Russian role in the South Caucasus, a new axis of stability connecting Turkey, Armenia, and even Iran, should its internal chaos subside. In a region where borders have been sites of trauma and siege, the area of peace, of open movement, is as radical as it is redemptive around Mount Ararat. But peace cannot be declared into existence. It must be built brick by brick, treaty by treaty, handshake by handshake, in the shadow of Noah's Ark. So was the visit historic? Yes. But history is not just what is photographed, it's what endures, and for that we must watch what follows. Whether Erdogan backs words with deeds, whether Baku signs peace or sabotages it, whether Pashinyan can convince his people that reconciliation is not submission. In this long and troubled region, perhaps it's too soon to speak of peace, but not too soon to speak for it.